the interest rate tightening cycle pause. The Fed reiterated that ongoing, and they did use that word ongoing increases will be appropriate. Ongoing was the word we told you yesterday you needed to listen for. And clearly, we were right because he said it, it's still going. That means they're maybe not ready to pause, but this is almost like a Rorschach test because I heard one thing and one of my guests heard another, and I can't wait to hear what Peter Schiff said. So let's bring him in here to analyze what we've just seen unfold and whether there's a chance this might be the last rate hike. Our NAT Alliance's global fixed income chief, Andy Brenner, and Euro-Pacific's Peter Schiff. Andy, to you first, how much do you think, if you climb inside his head, tell me exactly what he meant when he kept saying the job is not done, but the markets are continuing to move higher?
Well, it's everything you just pointed out, and you did a great job of it. The dollar is lower, the equity market's higher, the bond markets are lower in yield, higher in price. Everything points to this is the last Fed tightening.
Well, where did you get that, Andy? I didn't hear that.
Because what he said, you're right, he did say ongoing increases, but he also said that we need to stay on it. And staying on it is where you are right now. You just raised Fed funds to 4 3/4. All right, you have your PCE deflator 4.4. This is the first time in years that you've had the Fed funds rate higher than the PCE deflator. That by alone, he doesn't have to raise rates anymore. The markets will do the rest for him, and the markets do not believe he is going to tighten further. This was a more than dovish, not quite in the dovish camp. This is a neutral to dovish speech, and people were looking for a very hawkish speech, and he didn't give it. Having said all that, I always wait 18 hours before I really take the full effect of what the Fed has said.
18, not even 12. Okay, Peter Schiff, what did you hear? I heard an osprey. I heard a hawk saying over and over again, the job is not done. Andy thinks this very well could be the last rate hike. What do you think? What did you hear?
Well, it may be so, but not because inflation is coming down. Inflation is going to get much worse. In fact, what I heard from Fed Chair Powell was a lot of economic ignorance, especially when it comes to inflation. First of all, he said that he welcomes the disinflation. That disinflation is transitory. Maybe he doesn't realize that yet, but it is. But he also claimed that inflation is caused by consumer expectations. He's wrong. Expectations don't cause inflation. Neither do wages and prices. He said he was worried that maybe a wage price spiral could develop, and that's why the Fed wants to make sure it doesn't happen. The wage price spiral was a fiction invented by Keynesians. Inflation is caused by the government. It's caused by the Federal Reserve printing money and then Congress spending money. That's it. And spending is going up. In fact, he encouraged Congress to raise the debt ceiling so Congress can borrow and spend even more money. Ultimately, the Fed is going to monetize that debt. And we've only seen the beginning of inflation. And in fact, Powell said that inflation is creating misery for families. It's the government that's creating that misery and the Fed because they're the ones that are creating the inflation.
Well, you certainly have got, and this was a Paul Volcker, Ronald Reagan thing. Paul Volcker kept rates incredibly high to douse stagflation, but Ronald Reagan worked with him to cut spending. But I'm going to push both of you on this. I didn't hear what you heard. I heard there are more rates to come, and there's a very big danger in stopping short. Let's listen to what he said that jumped out at me.
There's the risk of doing too little and finding out in 6 or 12 months that we actually were close but didn't get the job done, and inflation springs back and we have to go back in. And now you really do worry about expectations getting unanchored and that kind of thing. This is a very difficult risk to manage. Whereas, of course, we have no incentive and no desire to over tighten. But if we feel like we've gone too far, we can certainly, and inflation is coming down faster than we expect, then we have tools that would work on that. So I do think that in this situation where we have still the highest inflation in 40 years, the job is not fully done.
Okay, Andy, I'm sorry. I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I do not see Powell pulling his foot off the gas yet.
Liz, I stand by my opinion. Look, this is the same Fed that told you 1 year ago that today Fed funds would only be at 1%. They're at 4.75% now. I don't believe the Fed. I don't believe they have good economics. I agree somewhat with what Peter was saying. I think the Fed is wrong in more instances. And if you listen to the very end of what he just said, he said we have the tools that if inflation were to come down faster, we could do things, meaning they can ease. I still stand by the fact that this is the last rate increase and the Fed eases by the middle or the third quarter of this year.
And Peter, what is the danger of that?
Well, inflation is going to run out of control. But remember, they've already slowed down the pace. They only went 25 basis points. And even if we get a couple of more 25 basis point hikes, it's not nearly enough. And also, you have to look at the effect that higher rates have had on consumer behavior, which is pretty much nothing, because credit card debt is at an all-time high. Savings are at an all-time low. So the higher interest rates have not stopped spending and encouraged savings, which is exactly what has to happen to bring down inflation. Meanwhile, as I said earlier, the government continues to increase spending. And if Powell thinks that a slowdown in the economy is going to reduce inflation, he's wrong again. That's actually going to fuel the inflation fire. So the real risk is that we end up with a financial crisis and a much more severe recession than the Fed recognizes. And then the Fed tries to prop up the economy and try to stimulate or combat the financial crisis by creating even more inflation.
I need to get to the possible investments here. You know, Andy, we actually had Rick Reeder of BlackRock on the show, and he said this is nirvana for the bond market investors right now because yields are so high. As they come down 9 to 11 basis points, depending on which part of the yield curve you're talking about, are they still good investments to park cash?
Liz, the front end of the yield curve is the best place to put money right now. Inside of 3 years, in corporates, you can still get 5%. Mortgages make sense. You know,
3 month. Let's show 3 month. Let's show 2 year if we can.
All right. I mean, the cheapest part of the curve right now, at least it was when I walked in, was a 6-month bill. I bought some yesterday. I mean, I think it's incredibly cheap, 4.80 yields. But you can get 6% in short, high-grade corporates. So, I mean, I think that's the place to go. I would stay away from duration. If Peter's right and the bond market's going to go crazy to the negative, then you certainly don't want to be out in the long end.
Let me give a shout out to you, Peter, because you've got two funds that have just been ranked number 1 and number 3 in the international fund area. And specifically, these are by U.S. News and World Report, foreign large cap value. You're number 1 for your dividend paying fund, and you're number 3 for your foreign large value fund, international. And we can show some of the holdings in here, but you're beating, Goldman Sachs is number 2, but you're beating, Vanguard and some of the biggest funds. What is it about foreign large cap value stocks that are good in this atmosphere?
Well, first of all those funds are in foreign large cap value stocks, so we've just got better stock picking and better sector allocations. But first of all, on bonds, I think bonds are a sucker bet. I mean, even if you're talking about 5 or 6% yield, inflation is going to average more than 5% over every one of those years. So you're going to lose money in bonds. If you want to avoid losing to inflation, you got to get out of dollar-denominated assets. And foreign dividend-paying stocks are a great place to look because you can get dividend yields that are as high or higher than some of these bond yields, but you have real assets that can rise in price as inflation continues to erode away the value of the dollar. And, last year the dollar was up, and that subtracted from the returns on my funds. But so far this year, the dollar is down. In fact, today it just hit a new low for the year as gold hit a new high for the year. And I think this could end up being one of the worst years ever for the U.S. dollar, and therefore one of the best years ever maybe for gold.
Yeah, gold.
And so investors should be looking there. I have a gold fund and also
Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. In the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man. The mark or the toy or the present, if you know what I mean, which they're going to give you to put in your right hand, will offset the high interest rates and the inflation crisis that we are currently under right now here in the United States. And as you can see from the clip that I just played for you, there's a sentiment that the Fed has come to its breaking point where interest rates will no longer, get any higher, and in contrast start to lower. That's what they call, dovish versus hawkish. Hawkish is when the interest rates go up high, and dovish is when they come down low. So you got one school of thought that sees hawkish as being good because if you raise the interest rates, you can lower the inflation. And then you have another school of thought, the dovish, that think, well, if you lower the interest rates, you can put more money out into the economy and stimulate it, and people can spend and, have a sustainable style of living. But either way you go, they both are, manufacture issues, if you will. But there's going to be a remedy that they're going to push that's going to be able to offset both of these, interest rates and inflation. And it's going to come in the form of that present, that toy, that mark that they're going to give you in your right hand or in your forehead, so that you may get back to a normal way of living. Because when the interest rates are high, hawkish, you really can't afford anything because, the poor people can't afford to really, afford anything because the interest rates are so high. And they're not getting back anything on their dollar. And then the rich people don't get anything when they lower the interest rates because it just devalues the money. So they losing out. So that's why it's spoken of in Revelation, the 13th chapter, the 16th verse. He calls us all both rich and poor. We're going to get that. But as we currently sit, they trying to figure out a way how to balance, the budgets per se, and have it where if you don't have that much money, you can, sustain a standard of living under this president, this democracy, this Democrat president that's in the office, Biden. So they just using both sides of the table to pitch whatever, narrative that they're gonna use to bring the dollar into, a bubble where it's going to eventually implode, man. Because Saudi Arabia right now is looking to ditch the dollar, man. And the dollar's supposed to be backed, by petrol, by oil. So U.S. know that they ain't got too much longer, that they got to get rid of this fiat currency, man. And a lot of these speculators, like you've seen in the clip that I played towards the end, is telling you to look to put your money into something else because the dollar isn't going to no longer hold its weight as the world reserve currency. But little do they all know, man, this is all being orchestrated, by the CBDC. They're going to come out and they're going to give you digital currency. And you're going to be able to, calibrate whatever style of living you live based on this CBDC, man. And there's already talk of abolishing the IRS under the fair, I believe it's called the fair tax trade, and bring in a national consumption tax where you get taxed on the spot, And I did a video about that, how they can use the CBDC to prorate your, current wages towards the taxes that you have to pay to try to, even it out for the rich and the poor. So you don't have somebody that's rich making $1 million paying the same amount as somebody that's poor making $10,000 for the same item. You know, a lot of people gonna claim that that's not fair, but you know that's gonna be part of doing business, man. Because the CBDC, it's programmable money basically, so it can give you dates that you have to use this by such and such before you start losing the value, or the interest rates go up, or however the system they're going to implement is going to be. It's going to expire on a certain date. Like you can't buy this loaf of bread this month, or you can't get this amount of gas this week because of global warming, or however they're going to pitch it to you. But make no mistake about it, it's going to be digital, and it's going to be able to calibrate to fit whatever bracket you fall under, whether you rich or poor, because middle class is going to be completely abandoned and abolished by that time. Because you're seeing the middle class right now diminish with these interest rates being so high, and then when they bring down the inflation, when they bring down the interest rates and raise inflation, it devalues the dollar. So you're either going to be rich or you're going to be poor under this mark, this present, this toy that they're going to give you. Make no mistake about it, it's going to be implemented inside your right hand or your forehead. Okay? And it's spoken of in Revelation, the 13th chapter, and we're going to get it. But we just, setting the table so you can see how they're going to use a crisis to bring a solution about. And you seeing it, because U.S. got to be a little bit more, the U.S. has to be a little bit more cautious on how they doing it to avoid, civil unrest, because there's going to be a lot of people in the street when they can't afford a loaf of bread because they can't see how they got $2,000 or $5,000 in the bank, but a loaf of bread is costing them $100. And it was a glitch in the bank a few weeks ago that a lot of people lost their money. And can you imagine that? Losing your money, especially at a time when you need it? For instance, if you had to pay your rent at the beginning of the month, or your car note or whatever, and now you don't have it because the bank has lost all, transactions of your accounts. Now you completely wiped out. Now you don't have no way of getting the essential items you need, So this is all going to be orchestrated, and they just setting the stage, like I said earlier, for this big collapse, man, because one way or another it's coming, if you ready or not. So, it's best that you have an idea of what's going on, because they setting the stage right now with these high interest rates, and then they can lower the interest rate and raise inflation by putting more money out into the economy to, putting more money out into the economy to stimulate it. But that's going to further devalue the dollar, in a sense that what you could get a week ago is going to be 4 times as much as what it is right now. So that same loaf of bread that you could have got last week for $5, you got to use it before the end of this week, because it's going to cost you $20 or $30. So this is all part of the digital currency that they're going to put on that mark, man. They're going to give to you in order for you to stay on the grid, that you have to receive in your right hand or in your forehead for other uses, and that's going to show you, and that's going to show them that you pledging your allegiance to them by receiving their mark. Okay, so without any further wait, let's get into a few scriptures, and this is out of the book of 2nd Ezra, and this is the 16th chapter, and we're going to get a few verses out of here, and this is verse 17, and it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? And the only person that's going to deliver you is Yahweh, through his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Not you trying to invest in other, ways to diversify your portfolio and move from the dollar, the petrodollar, to gold or to this or to that. No, because like it tells you in Amos, the 5th chapter, the 19th verse, man, it's like if you ran from a bear and ran into a lion, let's go ahead and get that. And then we're going to come back. So this is Amos 5 and verse 19, and it says, as if a man flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. So you're not going to be able to escape from this, man. This is going to be the hour of temptation when everybody is tried, So you trying to move your money around and trying to avoid the dollar being crashed, and, you thinking that once the smoke settle that you're going to still be standing, that's not going to be how it's going to happen, man. That's not how it's going to work, man. You're going to be tried just like everybody else. So it's best you know what's going on so you can be prepared for that moment. But ultimately, it's going to be whether or not you are part of the elect and you're going to be, directed, and make it through the other end of this. So, nothing that you can do is going to deliver you or save you from what's to come. So, you got to have that in your head that you can listen to all these people that are, trying to give you advice on what you should do to avoid this inevitable collapse of the dollar. But at the end, it's all been ordained and preordained from the Most High, man. He's just using these people to bring about. So when judgment comes, you can't say you didn't know, because right now you have the opportunity to get the word and to see what's going on through his servants, who are currently letting you know what's going on. So you don't have an excuse for when that day happened that you didn't know. So let's go back. So this is back in the book of 2nd Ezra 16, verse 17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? Only Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginnings of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And you got to be rooted in the word, man, so you have that hedge on you, so you don't have to worry about anything, But put your trust in the Lord. Put your trust in Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Because these things are coming, make no doubt about it, man. You got, the war over there that's brewing with, Russia and the other countries. Now there's speculation that, the NATO is trying to get involved and bringing, military aid to them. The USA is already aiding them, so that's being, put into play. These things gonna come into one, man. That's going on. Then you got the inflation over here that's happening. All these things are working together, man. So these prophecies are gonna hit at one time, man. So you better take this time right now and use it wisely. All right, so back to the verse 19. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, and you seeing these things happen in the earth, and you're not being able to put the pieces of the puzzle together to see that this is the time for you to repent and to turn your ways around, man. So when these things happen, you don't get caught up in them, man. But you just looking at them as current events, as something that's here today and it's gonna be gone by tomorrow. But that's not how it's gonna work, man. So you getting the time right now, so you don't have no excuse for when these scourges come that you didn't know about them. So it says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Yeah, so like I was saying, you just thinking they gonna be here today and gone tomorrow. You thinking that you can just wait till the smoke blow over and resume your normal way of living. But that's not how it's gonna happen. You're gonna be sadly mistaken if that's what you're thinking. Because you got a lot coming in store for you, man. And that's why a lot of people gonna go down there and get that mark willingly and freely. They're gonna receive that toy, that present, and they're gonna be able to put in their right hand in their forehead because they're not prepared for what's coming. So it says, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth. Why? Because they gonna give it to you that if you receive this mark in your right hand, that prices are gonna return back to normal, man. This is gonna offset a lot of this high inflation, a lot of this, high interest rates. So this is how they gonna sell it to you, man. But what does it say? Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think to themselves to be good in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion, because they're not going to be able to figure out why is all these things happening, man. They told us that once the mark is implemented, that the inflation would stabilize and the interest rates wouldn't go up. Why are we still in turmoil with these other countries? They're not gonna have a clue to know what's going on, man. These people gonna be lost, and it's all by design, man. So it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think to themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion, man, because there's a judgment that's coming to this place, man. And it's coming by the way of those ICBMs, man. So you need to get yourself together while you got a chance. And there's still time, man, because once these things start to kick off, man, it's going to be too late by that time, man. So let's go ahead and get that in Revelation. Let's take it from there. This is the book of Revelation, 13th chapter, and let's go to the 16th verse. And it reads, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. That's right. So he's manufacturing a scenario where he can be justified of rolling out this tool, as he said, that can offset the high interest rates and the inflation crisis that's currently plaguing this place right now in America, that this dollar is losing its value, man. And these Americans are going to lose their mind when they can't go to the store and figure out how the heck is we supposed to be the best country in the world, but we live in like a third world country, man. They're going to lose their mind, man. It's going to be uproar. But he going to have it where he already has a solution already in store. And that's going to be that mark. And what does it say? And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. You're going to have this to make purchases, timely purchases, because it's going to be digital. And with digital, anything, they could erase it, they could add to it, they can manipulate it. That's the whole point behind it, man. And like I mentioned earlier, you saw a case that was publicized nationwide with a popular bank that a lot of people woke up and they had money missing from their accounts and they didn't know what the heck was going on. Well, what make you think the same thing can't happen if you don't play by their rules, man? So it says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that understandeth count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. And when you go into that word and look into the root of stigma, which means prick, that's how they go and administer that mark, that present, that toy to you when they give it to you. They gonna prick your flesh, man. Excuse me. And we already know we're not supposed to make cuttings in the flesh for the dead, man. So that's already sinning right there. You know, so these high interest rates is all by design, man. They just play the field back and forth. So when they get the interest rates up to a point, they can start to, lower it and give the people rest and print more money to further devalue the dollar, man. And what are you holding in your banks for the most part? Dollars. So when the inflation rates goes up, that money that you have in your bank is not going to hold the same weight when you had high interest rates. But you're not going to be able to purchase the same with those high interest rates either. So it's like, you damn if you do, man. But they're going to have a fix for that. And they just, waiting on the right crisis to evolve for them to bring it out. Because make no mistake about it, man, this dollar is on its way out as the world reserve currency. Because like I mentioned earlier, Saudi Arabia is looking for, other ways to ditch the dollar, man. It's not respecting the dollar anymore, man, because they seeing how it's losing its value, man, with all this inflation and these high interest rates. So they just looking to move on, man, because for the longest, through these presidents, they've been in steady contact with these Saudi princes, man. And they had the, way of going about making deals over this petrol, this oil. But now things are changing, man. Things are not looking so good for the US of A and they currency, man, they dollar. And this is all being by design, man, because they're looking to go into a new era of technology that's digital. No longer are they looking for fiat currency, man, that they can no longer track and keep a tab on the people's spending habits. They losing a lot like that. So they getting ready to bring in this all new, CBDC, which is going to track every transaction that you purchase. And now you could be taxed accordingly to that transaction. So you're no longer going to need the IRS at the end of the year. But this is going to be on-site tax through that national consumption tax. And they're gonna be able to do a lot through this mark, man. And that's how they're gonna sell it to you as a miracle maker. Whether you get it in your hand or you receive the one in your forehead, they're gonna sell it to you like this is the game changer right here. You receive the one in your forehead, you can be able to walk again. You receive the one in your hand, you can make purchases, you can buy and sell. Things are going to be a lot less expensive than what they used to be. And your currency is going to hold a lot more value than the dollar did. So this is all designed, to help ease the people's mind, man, of becoming a third world country. But this is all going to be tied in globally, man. It's all going to work as one unison, like all world currencies are going to be one currency tied in together, man. That's going to be under that mark. There's a lot they're going to be able to do with that, the central banks. So they done ran their tests, they 12-week trial through these, popular banks, and they done got the data that they need. So they just about close to getting ready to implement this. Like you said, like you heard the guy said, like the third quarter of this year, which that should put you around, September, that they looking to, lower the interest rates, which is going to increase the inflation, man, because they're going to be able to justify putting more money back out into the economy, and it's not going to add up. The math doesn't add up, man, unless you're trying to crash the dollar. That's the only way the math add up, because you telling me that people are going to spend more money, but yet people don't have the jobs to spend the money. So how are you going to give them the money to spend unless you print more money and stimulate the economy that way and give out more stimulus and more, checks of that nature? Because people ain't working anymore. So the math doesn't add up, man. And a lot of Americans are the ones that pay taxes are like, man, what's the purpose of me, going to work for if I can get free money? And that's when you're going to see that universal basic income come into play, man, where they give everybody a certain amount of money. Okay, here's a lot of money for you this month, and you got to spend it by such and such time. And all this going to be by the way of that mark, man. So they coming with that toy, that present for you to get. All you got to do is come down there and receive it. Like it says, in your right hand or in your forehead, man. They got something for you. They got something for everybody who come down there, So I just thought I'd bring that out. We're going to go to 1 Peter. We're going to close it. We're going to close it out after that. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. And if you fall for if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything, man. And if you ain't standing for the right cause, you're going to fall anyways. You're going to believe that you can diversify your portfolio and go invest in gold and silver and these type of treasury bonds and, all that nonsense, man. That's all part of the act, the scam, because these people will tell you one thing and then they'll try to pitch you something at the end of the day, sales pitch. The dollar's going to crash. You want to move your money into something that's more, tangible that you can hold on to. No, man, none of that's going to work. None of that's going to get you out of what's coming, man. The hour of temptation, you're going to be given a choice. Either you're going to take this mark or you're going to have to go by what you got. And a lot of people who falling for this stuff that they telling you, they going to think they got enough to get through it. But they don't know you don't got enough to get through what's coming for you. So that's why we got to put our trust in the Most High Yahweh through his only begotten son Yahweh Shai, that he gonna come and deliver us, man. That's the only way for you Israelites, you so-called Black, Latino, and Native Americans, and you other Israelites who look like the other nations through your father lineage. But we speak mostly Blacks, the Latinos, and Native Americans here in the Western Hemisphere, but we were scattered abroad throughout the whole four corners, man. So that's the only way you're gonna get out of this, man. You're not gonna get out of this on your own. You're only gonna get out of this through the mercy of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, by sending his only begotten son Yahweh Shai to deliver us out of this, man. Because judgment is coming to this place, man. America, by the way of those missiles, those ICBMs, man. And there's speculation that, that there was a so-called balloon flying around, a balloon just flying over certain parts of this country. So, we're gonna see how that play out, man. But yeah, that was it, So just be aware. Know that things gonna get a lot worse before they get better, man. And that's how they gonna get better, because they gonna tell you that they got that fix for you, that mark. That victuals should be so good, cheap on the earth once you get it. But you're going to still be confused. And why is things, the sword and famine, like, you're not going to be able to add two and two together unless you stay in this truth, man, to know what's really going on. behind their enchantments because it's wearing off, pursuing to Isaiah the 47th chapter. You know? So we're going to close out after that. I'm going to read this verse one more time and then we're going to take it from there. 1 Peter 5 and verse 8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. You know, so stay in this truth so he don't devour you, you know. So with that being said, stay strong, stay in the faith. We almost home. Shalom.